Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3-Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry, and all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we published somewhere around 75 children's books, and we've all taught illustration at university art programs.
Yeah, each week we come at you guys with different questions, different interviews, awesome things about illustration. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. So our last episode, if you are a direct supporter of the show, this was an exclusive episode for you. But we ended up talking about we were answering questions from our supporters, and one of them was about bookstores, whether or not you should even rely on a bookstore, like have a personal relationship with a bookstore or a local bookstore. Does that help at all? And we had varying opinions on that, but Samantha Cotterill wrote in. She was interviewed on this podcast last year. One of our favorite interviews. This is an illustrator who has completely abandoned social media and now subscribes to magazines and newspapers, and that's how she gets her updates on pop culture instead of TikTok and Twitter. She wrote in to say, I'd like to share my perspective on the bookstore. I think it can indeed be a valuable tool. For my local bookstore, I use them for any school visits I may do locally. Last year, I spent a day visiting 4 elementary schools virtually in my area. We set up an advanced book order and sold almost 1,000 copies with pre-orders. 1,000 copies?
That's impressive.
Ooh. Wow. The bookstore then ordered the books. I signed and personalized every one, and the store then delivered the books to each school. It benefited my local bookstore income-wise and helped get the book on an indie list for that week, which created further publicity for the book. Now I have an established relationship with them. They come to set up a table if I do a library event, etc. And it's a way to feel like I'm giving back to the community.
That's
so
great.
That was like a 1-2 punch, a school bookstore. This is kind of what you were saying, Will. Like do the school visits and tell them, go get the book at the bookstore.
Yeah. And I also kind of trashed a little bit on the doing the book signing at your local. If you have a complete plan, there's so many ways to market, and the worst is not putting any thought into it and just going and doing the easy thing, calling your bookstore and saying, hey, I want to do a book signing. Can I come down there and do a book signing? So that's where I'm like negative on the book signing. But it sounds like she had a more cohesive package and plan to include the local bookstore, and I think that's great.
Yeah,
there's just so many different ways that you can market.
Yeah,
it's really cool too. Like if you aren't familiar with her work, go to samanthacotterill.com, and she does these cool like diorama paper cutout illustrations for each of the illustrations in the book. It's something she sort of has evolved into with her style, and it's just a super cool, unique style. So and that was a good interview too, so I'd go check out that interview. All right, Will, let's do your question. Do you want me to just read it, or did you want to read it?
I'll read it.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to withhold the name because there's some with the agent and all that, and I think this person doesn't really want.
Do you want to give context to what you were telling us? This is
this is one of our longtime SVS students that's been with us since the beginning, and we really appreciate that, and we love to, and very complimentary towards us, and I really love this question, so I wanted to work it into the podcast, and I asked her if it was okay, and she said yes, but just don't, not to use her name or the title of the book or anything. So here's my question. I randomly made this ridiculous book for my dad. I wanted to print a copy with Shutterfly or something to give him as moving away present. However, everyone who has seen it in progress has asked me when and where it will be available to buy. I went ahead and got a quote from Print Ninja and looked into ISBNs. It's going to cost me about $4,000 to get the minimum order of 500 books. And just for those listening, 500 books for a printer is a nothing order. Just so you know, like orders actually start in the like 3, 4, or 5,000. Like even 3,000 is looked at as anything under, from what I've been told by my book broker, anything in the 2,000 range, 2,500, 3,000, somewhere in there. It's a toss up of whether to go digitally and just like basically color copy and print your book versus offset, because the expenses in setting up the press, and once they start running, they can run like 10,000 copies in a few hours. Like, you know, they just, so
like one of the big expenses is getting the plates, like the printing plates. And then, it's, I don't know if you've ever done t-shirts, but it's sort of like the same thing, getting a screen,
the setup.
made.
Yeah. So she says, where did I leave off? It cost me about 4,000. Yeah, 5. So, and if I go with the board book style, I can't afford that. So I thought I maybe should run a Kickstarter, but I'm worried about it funding. I don't know that many people outside of our small town and about 1,400 followers on Instagram. The other thing is I'm actually more of a writer than an illustrator. And looking at her work, I'd say, no, the illustrations look really fun.
I like them too.
Yeah. I just found an agent that I'm super interested in, and he's specialized in the kind of middle grade fiction I write. I was working up the courage to email him. He's also open to silly children's picture books. So do I query him with this and let him know about my novels too? Is it a bad idea to query an agent for a book that was totally random and not necessarily the kind of thing you want to make on a regular basis? I have no idea what to do, and everything sounds scary or financially risky. Any thoughts? And then she sends some pictures, which we're not going to share, but it is a really fun idea, a fun book. And I don't know, I wanted to get your guys' opinions as well, because I don't think there's one answer, you know. So I thought we could maybe talk about like the different options and stuff. I mean, I'm way into wanting to have my own books, but it is an expense, and once you have all those books, you have to have a plan in place to move them, to sell them online, to sell them directly to other people, to store them. There's a lot to doing that on your own. And if you're not up for all that, I think that's really what you should decide first is, are you willing to order boxes and labels and a printer to print labels and a scale and maybe some shelving and some packing materials? And do you have the time to pack books and ship them off? If not, some people, you know, you don't have to sell them online, but are you prepared to sell them to everybody that you know and hope that over time through your website you sell the rest? And if that, it sounds like she's really more leaning towards querying the agent, which I think is a good idea. I don't personally think that an agent is going to be upset if you normally do middle grade type stuff with middle grade fiction, and then you're like, hey, here's the story, and tell them the story about how you made this for your dad and you were going to just do one copy through Shutterfly, but then you thought, hey, maybe I should just send this to my agent just to see if there's any possibility. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What do you guys think?
No, I think, I mean, I'm one of those guys where my philosophy is it doesn't hurt to try.
Right.
Like then you know for sure. And I've had times where I've tried and it failed, and the times where I tried and it worked. Oh, my camera's not even on me. What the heck?
We're looking at your
I
bathroom.
I didn't know what was happening over there.
We can see the comings and goings in your bathroom.
I had to get
there we go.
I was drawing. I made my own comics notes, and I was writing comics on the top. They used to say Fields Notes. Now it says Comics Notes on it, and I was writing it with a white pen, and it bled all over. So I got up to get toilet paper to like wipe it up.
Oh,
I know my camera was like, "Hey, get back here!"
Hey, for those of you just listening, we're also on YouTube at School of Visual Storytelling, in case you want to watch the antics of Jake.
Right. This camera's cool, so it stays still unless I hold my hand up, and then it like blinks at me, and then it like follows me, so it knows to follow me. And then if I want it to stop, I hold my hand up, it blinks again, and then it like freezes.
So weird.
Do you
Yeah.
feel more important now that you have that camera that follows you around?
It is nice. I love all the attention. Like when I'm just feeling like I need some attention, I hold the hand up and it like follows me and I feel that just that warm
Do you feel it
Did you
like
guys-
it's
Did you
watching
guys
you?
see the did you guys see that movie this past year about with everybody got their sort of personal robot?
Yeah.
What was it
I didn't
called?
see it.
Oh, dude, it's a good one.
I saw the trailer for it though. Yeah.
It's so good. I think you would totally dig it, but I think we're slowly headed to that. I wish I could remember it. Something I can't remember that. Do you remember the name of it by any chance? So,
It's like Mitchell's in the Machine, or no, that was a different one.
No,
That was
no,
a
no.
different one.
That's close though.
It came out the same time.
Since we're on this topic of AI,
Anyway,
you guys, if you haven't seen the most recent 60 Minutes on AI, you should. The AI is writing stories that are like Hemingway.
Oh, good.
And also it, without being prompted or told, it went and taught itself an obscure language.
Really?
Yeah. So
doing
there's
stuff.
crazy
Here
stuff.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Did you
As
see
we watch.
Did you see the pizza commercial that they used AI to write the script, AI to generate the jingle for it, AI to come up with like the name of the pizza company and the logo and the video of the people eating the pizza. It's terrifying because it's almost like a fever dream pizza commercial, but I'm just like, well, we're a year away now from just AI TV commercials. Like you can make a commercial for anything. And the place is called Pizza Hug is what the thing is, and it's like the only thing as good as family is more cheese is like their slogan or whatever.
Interesting. Wow.
Oh man. Anyways,
it's crazy to be alive at this time. It's just absolutely crazy.
I actually got into I've been following Adam Duff's Lucid Pixel on YouTube. He's been talking a ton about AI, and I always like Adam's sort of take on having a healthy sort of attitude towards art and towards creativity. Like, and I don't mean, I mean more so like a mental health thing. That's sort of his niche in YouTube is people ask him questions. He's apparently had a bunch of therapy as well, and he's always like, I am not your therapist, but here's something I learned that I think could help you. And so he always comes at it that way. So like, someone might be like, worried or stressed about their art career or procrastination or anything like that. He gives advice on how to deal with that. So he's also tackling this AI topic and just getting a lot of heat lately for, I would say, telling people not to worry, though he has clarified that in that AI is going to do what AI is going to do. Absolutely. And I actually have argument with that saying as well. But his whole thing is if you need to create art, keep creating art. And kind of like, sorry if you won't be able to have a career doing it. A career in art is already hard enough as it is. But if you need to make art, keep making art. And I personally feel like the good stuff will rise to the top and people will value that over AI stuff. That said, a lot of people already are losing gigs to AI. And I commented on one of his videos, which he then read the comment in his next video. And it was essentially my experience so far with seeing AI folded into the workflow for client work. Have I told you guys about this client work that I've been doing?
No.
So essentially, sorry, we're going on this little side tangent, but it is sort of relevant. It's the zeitgeist right now, is AI, everything. But I am on a project. The art director has someone who works with AI on the team. And what he tells the guy is, hey, we need just a bunch of ideas generated for this particular, a character wearing this kind of clothing, this particular style. Just give me like, I don't know, 50 ideas. And he'll go and spend several hours getting it just right, dialing it in as best as he can, right? And then the art director will send me essentially this AI mood board from what this guy's made and say like, hey, here's 10 designs I really like. I need you to now clean them up and simplify them in the style of this project that we're on. And so I'll go in, and in some cases I'm like tracing over them just to like make them in the style that we've established, which is more my style. Because the AI, to get the AI artist to be as consistent as I am, it's just not there yet. Like, it requires so much finessing and massaging and like just getting it in the right spot that it would take him way more hours to do it than it would take me. And so I'm still cheaper than AI, essentially, right? And then me personally, on some client jobs, and I think I talked about this before, I can't remember, but I was working fast and hard trying to get this done to meet a deadline, and I needed a background, and I'm like, I don't have time to like figure out the perspective. I had Midjourney open. I typed in 1800s laboratory, large windows, natural lighting, steampunk, right? And it generated 4 or 5 ideas for me, and I grabbed one of them. I brought it into Photoshop. I tweaked it so that it was the right aspect ratio, and I like messed something with Photoshop, flipped a thing or something, and then I just drew over it really quick. So it was like my sketch.
Right. Your rough sketch that gives you a horizon line. It gives you sort of a scale. It gives you all the stuff you need to start.
And then I sent that over to the client. They're like, "Oh, that's good, great, thanks." So this is me seeing AI already like working in the client work. For me personally, would I use it for personal work? In this way, maybe. If it's a time factor, I could see it being useful in that way. Sometimes I go to Pinterest and I type in, I need ideas for, a really cool like outfit for a post-apocalyptic dentist or something like that. And I'm looking and I'm spending an hour on Pinterest, like making my folder. I can also go to Midjourney, type those prompts and get it really close to what I need that I then can use for reference. And so in this case, I see Midjourney being sort of filling the role that Pinterest has filled already.
Yep.
So here's the Can I jump in?
Jump in.
Okay. I've been seeing a lot of arguments online over AI, right? And I saw one yesterday where someone said he unfriended someone else because they were pro AI. Okay. That's your choice. That's your business, whatever, But the thing is, and the reason is, the biggest problem that people have, that artists have, is that, hey, you're stealing from other artists. The computer's going out there and making an amalgam of other people's art. They're bringing it in and they're helping you go quicker and faster than you should be able to, because those other artists aren't getting paid, right? And you're getting something basically for nothing, and you're able to pass off their work as your own. That's the general pushback. Right. But here's the thing: we were already doing it with Pinterest.
That's exactly right.
We're already going out and looking at other artists' work, getting inspired, and making it, and hiding our digital tracks, and hiding like I go. The first thing I do when I want to create a bedroom scene or something for like my current project on the Pickleball Paul books is, I don't want to do a
scene in Pickleball Paul.
There's a bedroom scene. It's a bedroom scene. I know. I want that bedroom to look different than other bedrooms I've done, and I want to see what I'm missing. So I go to Pinterest, I look around, I find several that I really like, and then I kind of combine stuff. I haven't gone down the Midjourney road yet. I'm still taking
It's the
ideas
same
from your
thing,
art.
though.
And guess what? I see my art in other artists' work all the time too. We live in a community of artists in this world, and we don't create in a vacuum. We share, right? We're all inspiring each other. So I know that some people aren't going to like this argument, and some people are going to push back. I can see their argument when it comes to just pushing putting the prompts in, outputting art and using the art as the finished product. I can understand that argument way more.
Yeah.
But as far as using it to enhance your speed and your creativity, and I feel like it's the exact same thing we've already been doing. It's just doing it faster.
That's the best argument I've actually heard for it, because you're exactly right. I go on, I'll find somebody's lighting that I like. Oh, I like that lighting. Boom, that's the lighting I'm going to sort of use. Find a layout that I like. Boom, that's sort of the layout I'm going to use. And then you combine all these 10 different things to make your own thing, but you're not just starting it in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But I think that's the trajectory, though, is it's getting to a point where you can essentially hand something that's been designed in AI to, I'm talking again in the workflow, hand it to a modeler and say, hey, make this thing here. We want it just like that. And so now you've completely eliminated the concept artist. And so now the modeler can work on that. And at some point, the AI will be able to model as well.
Right.
So now the modeler is eliminated.
Right.
So point by point, it's sort of eliminating some of these jobs. And a lot of people are like, well, it's inevitable, so just deal with it. But here's the thing. AI is controlled by humans who are running corporations. There's business interests involved here, and anything that's done by humans can be stopped. It's not nature. It's not a hurricane, right? It's humans who are doing this. And there's a bunch of people who are in charge of making these AI things that are just like, if we can do it, let's just do it. No consideration for the impact it has on musicians, on coders, because AI can write code now. So web code or any sort of computer programming, no consideration for anybody with creative vision, right? Let's just do it. Let's make it. And so I am a big proponent for let's get regulation. Something that says, hey, you can't go there. You can't make this with AI. You can't use it for that purpose. Let's put some brakes on it. Let's figure this out.
Will probably agrees with that. He likes regulation.
I know I'm triggering Will.
Well, you're not. No, the people that want regulation, go for it. I do see it paralyzing some artists going, well, I guess I can't make a living in art anymore. I guess that's just done. And that's so self-defeating. It's like now is the best time to take your products to market directly. And so like I'm thinking, if I were getting all my work from freelance, I'd be worried about AI.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm going direct to market. I'm selling to people.
If you're trying to
day.
if you're waiting around for it, you're in big trouble.
And I'm like, okay, I could use AI to create the art that I'm making. I've thought about it. I've thought about speeding up the process. I'm already really fast. I'm already, and I have fun making the art the way that I make it on my own. I have fun solving the problem. So I don't really, right now, I'm not really interested in using Midjourney to really help me along that path. And unless someone could sit down and go, I don't know. I'm just having a lot of fun and I'm getting a lot of sales. And so I don't fear the AI right now.
I talked to Anthony Wheeler about this, we've had him on the show a couple of times, and his take on it is really, really good. He's like, you have to put the artist into the art more so than ever now. And the way that he does that is he puts his face on the screen as often as he can. So on social media, he's always connecting his face to his art. So here's my art. Here's me talking about it, or here's
Mhm.
my voice talking about it, so that the people who are fans of Anthony Wheeler, of his art, are less, they're going to want to support this artist because they know they're getting something made by a human, that's you know, that's sort of, it's a tricky one because AI can then make, oh, you like Anthony Wheeler stuff? Well, here's an Anthony Wheeler knockoff, and I'm doing the voice and I'm doing the face as well of this
Mhm.
very charismatic person. So there's competition there, but at the end of the day, people are connecting more to the person than they are to the art, and I think you're right, Will. Make a thing, build a thing that is completely owned by you, whether it's your web comic, your children's book series, your indie video game, your graphic novel, anything like that is sort of like your thing is going to be much more valuable than you just rolling up and trying to get concept art jobs or freelance book cover jobs or something like that.
Hey, so we certainly do drift. I want to go back to that question that Will had originally. She was asking, the original thing she's saying, I just found an agent that I'm super interested in, and he now specializes in the kind of middle grade fiction that I write. I was working up the courage to email him. He's open to my silly children's book.
I thought we answered this question.
Well, Will said you just got to figure out who you are. Are you willing to do this, 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 and this to self-publish? But we didn't really address the agent side of that thing. I would recommend doing that first to establish. I mean, if you got an agent that's interested in you, because it's a long-term sort of career. And so if you got an agent interested in you, go ahead and do that in the beginning, because they can guide your writing, they can guide your picture book. And then, what I'm thinking about the self-publishing stuff on this is for side projects or projects that maybe more avant-garde, and some maybe publishers don't pick them, like they like them but they won't do them. And then if I get that kind of feedback, then I'll be like, okay, there's interest in there, it's just not enough in the mainstream. And then maybe I do it on my own after it's already been rejected by publishers for whatever reason. So if there's an agent interested and you don't have an agent, that is by far 100% the direction I think you should go in this. Don't self-publish right now when you got an agent interested. That can just jumpstart your career right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me
that's what I said. Like, if it's worth it, give it a shot. Give it a shot. See if that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I got a question for you guys, just real quick. Maybe it's not real quick. Keep getting these inquiries on Instagram lately. Like, I know this has been happening for a while, but I just haven't been getting them. But I am now. That is like, hey, I'm interested in your images as an NFT, and they offer some exorbitant amount of money. Like the one I just got this morning was for each image $8,700, and I just want to know where the scam is there. I don't understand why I'm getting these or what they're trying. Where does the scam happen in that inquiry? Do you guys know?
Did you see that was one of the questions we got too?
No, I didn't see
today.
That.
Yeah.
I don't read the questions pre-hand. I like to be fresh.
So and it all comes out right now.
So
wait, what? No, I'm addressing the question in the email.
There's too much honesty here.
Okay, well, yeah, it looks like it's coming out everywhere. I see it now.
NFT scam. I was approached by someone. I've seen it too, and someone DM'd me on Instagram saying, "Hey, someone wants to buy my work as an NFT." So I'll just read this question too, just so we can knock that one off the list. Right? It sounds fishy to me that someone would pay that much for their artwork, and it's $8,000 each as an NFT. So I asked him, what is the process? He says I need to register my artwork in the NFT platform he uses, and then he will purchase it right away from there. Pretty sure it's a scam, but does anyone know how the scam works?
Yeah, you're going to pay to get it registered, right? So then he doesn't buy it.
But how do they make money? They have to make money somewhere in this.
Because they own the registration place, probably.
Well, like the one that this guy asked me, because I just followed along just because I wanted to kind of bait him just to get more information. And he said,
I want to hear what you got.
You have to set up a MetaMask wallet address to receive payment. Well, MetaMask is like one of the biggest and most trusted wallets unless I'm mistaken, online, and he's not giving me a link. He just says you have to have it. And so I did my private research on that, and yeah, it's like that's a totally legit blockchain wallet. And then I said, okay, so is there any fees? I already have that. I didn't tell him I don't have an account. I said I already have a wallet there. Well, is there any fees you want me to pay up front? And he said, well, there's just wait, let me find it. You only need to pay off your gas fee so you can be able to receive the NFT link to register and upload your artwork and get your payment immediately. And I said, well, I already have the images as NFT. Total lie. So there's no gas fee or anything to register now. And then also your profile image is a senator. So I'm pretty sure you're not him. And then I just left it at that.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that the scam right there? The gas fee? And how would he get it?
Yeah. So gas fee is essentially it's to cover the energy costs to mint the NFT is what it is. Because for them to be able to generate the NFT code or whatever to make it something unique, it's going to take a certain amount of processing, which costs them a certain amount of energy costs at the end of the day, right? So they might be padding that gas fee. It's going to be $100 to actually pay for it, and they're going to say, well, the gas fee's $200. That's one way it could be it. The other one is it just maybe a variation of my wife's anniversary is coming up. I want to buy 2 artworks for $5,000. I'll send you the check. It turns out it's $7,000. You have to send them, they overpaid you, and you send them a check back of the $2,000. That money never got to your account, and now they're gone. You want to hear another scam? I know this is not our thing, but this is scary. My brother-in-law is purchasing in the process of purchasing a house, and the escrow company calls him and says, we need 5-figure amount of money, and here's where you send it and deposit. And he's like, okay. And he went to do it through his bank. His bank's like, no, we limit it. We don't do anything more than, 10,000. So you're going to have to come into the bank to do it. So he goes in and he meets with the bank person, and they're looking at it and they're all, what was the name of this company? And he's like, it's this. He's like, I'm just noticed a little bit different than the name on the contract here. He's all, do you mind calling them really quick just to confirm? And so he calls them and says, hey, the names are different. And they're like, oh, we're actually using our legal firm for this. It's a little bit different. He's like, oh, okay. Sounds good.
Sounds reasonable.
Goes back to the bank and says, now I want you to call the number on the contract here, not the number that was given to you by this guy that contacted you from there. So he calls the number on the bank contract. They call him and said, he's like, hey, I'm just wondering, I got to pay this money. And they say, oh, we don't have the paperwork ready. It'll be ready next week. And it turns out it's a fake company set up with a name almost as similar as the one he's actually doing business with. And what they do is they already have all your data, already have all your information, and they go in there and they contact you before the other company is ready for you to do their money. And they say, hey, here's where you send it. You send them the money. They shut down the account. They make one bank account just for this whole thing, right? Because as soon as this is figured out, they're on their trail. Yeah. So they shut down everything. They run off with your money, and you're just screwed, right? And he said he got off the phone with the actual escrow agent and was shaking. He's like, okay, we're not sending money to this other account. Completely averted a crisis.
Crazy.
Right?
And that's so elaborate that my mom would fall for that, or anybody who's not really in the know about how all these transactions work.
I would have thought. It's so.
Yeah, I would. It'd be
understandable, and it's such a good scam because, and they just go through their list of everybody who's buying a house and who they have all the information of, because everything's stolen, right?
Right.
And then their whole job every day is to set up bank accounts under fake names, set up little fake businesses, and then if one person pays the 20 or 30,000 or whatever, then
It's a great week. Yeah.
then yeah, they did their job and they're gone.
Crazy.
Anyways, don't sell your stuff to anybody wanting to make an NFT out of it. Okay. If you want to do NFTs for your stuff, you be the one who instigates it, not someone else coming out to you. Okay. That's our advice.
Yeah.
There. Next question.
Yeah, well, so now we're finally on to the questions. Thanks for letting me ask that question. I'm just getting those more and more lately, and I know they're scams. I just don't understand how the mechanism works. So
yeah, I love just going over those things.
The only way I would do something like that is if the deal was, we want you to create this artwork for our NFT project, and we're just going to pay you this money, and you're not paying anything. And it's like a client type situation where they're betting their money that they can make more money off of your artwork.
Yeah,
I think that's
if you're gonna, I mean, I think the days are past for that. The NFT speculation kind of bubble burst. But if there's still people out there who are like, hey, we've got an NFT project, we need an artist, absolutely say, okay, here's my rate. Just treat it like a freelance job, get a contract.
Yeah.
And then include in that you want, 5 NFTs that you can then go sell, to pad in it or whatever. Okay, this comes from Elias. He says, patching up your tires while driving the car is the subject line. How much time should I spend on exercises and studying versus final work? I feel like I'm a decent artist, but some of my fundamentals are not very good, especially since I've been making a change to the type of work I do. I'm working on putting together a portfolio to get illustration work and leveling up simultaneously. How can I determine what the ratio should be for studies versus finished work? Feel free to share my name and work. Thank you for all you do. Wanted to keep the question short, so I'll gush over you guys.
Can I go ahead and share it?
Yeah.
So we're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you can't see it. Not that we want you on YouTube necessarily. It's just sometimes what we do is we share this artwork.
Mm-hmm. It's really good stuff. What do you guys think? What's the ratio to?
Are you muted, Jake?
Oh yeah. So I don't know why I accidentally hit mute. Yeah. What do you guys think? What's the ratio to studying versus creating?
I think
it's always.
Yeah, it's always, to me, it's always. So
it's like,
I mean, I
doing
learned
life
on the
drawing
job
versus drawing a comic page. How much time should you spend?
I think necessity is the mother of invention. I think that we learn by doing, and we learn through our mistakes. And for me at least, I couldn't take practice as serious as the necessity to make something that I've got more skin in the game on, in money specifically, or a client that I'm wanting to do so well for that I can that I'll get repeat work,
Yeah.
So like I used to love to watch the Ultimate Fighter on UFC, which I'm into that. So is Bobby Chew. So that legitimizes me a little bit more. But the thing is, they would bring in these fighters for this reality show, and they were like the minor leagues, the up and comers. And I was always surprised at how, like, these up and comers were, they're still learning their craft and all. And then a few years later, they're like the main event sometimes in the main show of the UFC. And it's like, there is no, I mean, that's how you get better, is they have scheduled fights all the way up, the smaller fights, and if they win, they keep moving up into higher ranks. And that's kind of how your illustration career should be. I feel like if you're not working on actual projects and actual client work and things that really matter, you'll just get stuck in this mode of just kind of just doing stuff to do it, and not really, there's no consequence if it doesn't do well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me it's I set my sights on a piece of artwork I want to make, a portfolio piece, or a short comic or a book or something like that, and then my studying will be in relation to that project. So this particular one needs some life drawing done to it, right? So I might um, I might do some hand studies, some head studies, some figure studies in relation to that project, because all of this is in service to like final finished product of something you could show and share, that shows that you know the level that you're at and the good that you could do. So that's been my approach earlier on. The ratio was 50% study, 50% making a finished piece, and now it's maybe 10-90.
Uh-huh.
And I think you just kind of work your way into that, because really you should be learning from every finished piece. And the finished piece is going to get you more work, more so than the figure studies that you're posting, that you're sharing.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, is like, what kind of work do you want to do? If it's portrait work, then you're on your way. If it's not doing portraiture, then you need to start doing and posting the stuff that you really want to do. There's some illustration.
Well, he says in the question, he's putting together a portfolio to get illustration work. So like, make some illustrations and do the studying that leans into those illustrations. Lee, you're going to say something?
I'm just thinking that if they want to do illustrations, they're just leaning a little too hard into the figure for what I'm seeing now. And that if you look at to back up what Will said, if you look at like J.C. Leyendecker work, for example, those studies that he does, I like the studies better than the actual paintings. To be honest, you know which ones I'm talking about, where it's like a page of the hands that he's doing for the illustrations. Man, they are something else. And the John Singer Sargent studies, but these are a little too. I don't see a market for these right now, but I do see a definite talent and ability for this person, but not a market. It's almost like they're trying to prove they're an artist, which everybody does right in the beginning. But it's not necessarily portraiture. It's not necessarily storytelling. I think they need to lean in and go for it. And this person has a skill set, but when they go to doing the illustrations, they definitely stiffen up more than they do in the portraits, where I can tell that they're more comfortable with reference and drawing what they're seeing in front of them than when they're making something new, which everyone struggles with in the beginning, by the way. Everybody does that. I mean, how many times do you guys see that where they say, I can draw it if it's sitting in front of me, but I can't come up with something on my own? I mean, I see it 100 times.
Right.
And so I see that here where when they're trying to come up with an illustration, all of a sudden the figures get a little stiffer. The lighting's a little stunted. And so they just need to really lean into the storytelling trumps drawing, and design trumps drawing, technical drawing any day.
Yeah.
So,
and these don't have a lot of story. So that's the thing, that if you're going to get illustration work, you're mostly telling stories.
Can I share my camera here? Just gonna switch to this one. Where is it?
I say that sometimes, but then like I'm looking at this guy on Instagram right now who's a watercolorist who is so good technically that I just can't believe how good he is. It's kind of where I wish I was.
So I'm, if you're looking at the YouTube video, you could kind of see here, I'm just going through my Leyendecker book, and every one of Leyendecker, and if you want to learn storytelling in single images, go get a Leyendecker book. Go look at all the Leyendecker art that you can online. Him and Norman Rockwell.
They're telling stories.
Well, they studied together.
There's so much story.
Yeah, so look at this one. We got two kids. It says 4th of July, right? You didn't even need 4th of July to understand that.
Yeah.
Because there's people carrying flags down the street. There's these two kids climbing the top of a pole, like a Main Street pole. This is Main Street. So that's part of the story too. So this is a parade. Waving hands. One kid's like super confident, one kid's like super nervous. And there's a little bit of story there. It's these kids trying to get a better view of of the parade. You know, here's another one.
Yep.
Just a kid watching a guy burn leaves, right? Like there's a little something going on there. This is like maybe a story about class divide, or maybe it's a commentary on race too. Who, you know, this is done in the 30s, and you have this kid who's really like put together, and he's watching this guy who's just got holes in his overalls and everything burn it, you know, burn the pipe, right? Burn the leaves, smoke in a pipe, burn the leaves, not burning the pipe. So
Hey,
yeah,
Jake, go back
you're right.
go back one page. Oh man, you missed it. Well, you can even stay on that main page. I tell you what, with Leyendecker, I don't want to paint that way, really. I mean, I'm not a natural painter like that, oil painting and opaque painting. But man, when I see that work, I'm like, I'm quitting my job and I'm just going to learn to paint wrinkles in fabric. If you can make look at that sleeve right there. If you can make a sleeve look that good,
That is a sexy
it's just
sleeve.
Crazy.
shocking how good he can make or like a lock of hair. He makes the hair look so awesome. It's just amazing how good of a designer he is technically. Shocking.
Yeah.
Hey, let me
really
share my
good.
screen though, because I want to highlight something that goes against kind of what we're saying here. I'm going to argue. How about that for once? This isn't actually an argue. It's the other side of this. This is the guy that just popped up on my Instagram feed. I just wanted to show you sort of what it looks like. Like, say, for example, you do say, hey, I don't want to tell stories. I just like making art that people buy. Then it comes down to your craft, and it's never going to be how well do I paint a boat. Like we're looking at a boat image right now, if you guys are just listening, but how well do I paint a boat? The question becomes, what do I add to it? Like we're looking at a building right now, just the side of a building. If you drew this accurately, it would be probably the most uninteresting thing ever. And this guy, his name's Mark Foley. I'm just going to go ahead and give him a shout out.
The textures and the colors are just beautiful.
Oh, it's just so sexy. And he's just interpreted this space and made it his own and turned it into something. I mean, I would hang any one of these on my wall. And what's shocking is I'm not actually interested in the subject matter in any way. I don't care about this boat. I don't care about this building, but it's so good. He's transformed it.
He simplified in watercolor, light and shadow and texture and design.
Go click on the violins.
It's so good.
I don't even know where I'd start with that.
So good.
Those are cellos, but
how do you do?
I don't know how you make that.
Yeah, I mean, this image, this is one of my favorite ones. It's just two boats that are docked, and man, it's transformed from a base.
Fluid, do you
think, is he painting back in with some kind of gouache?
He's using pixie dust and magic somehow. I don't know.
But Lee,
I don't know what he's doing.
Come on, those light areas, those white areas, is that masking?
To me, it does not look like he's masking. And as a watercolorist, I can see what happens when you mask is a little bead of water will form right there because it's raised a little bit.
It hits that rubber,
It'll become a little darker around masking fluid. So when people get around it, then when they go around it, there's sort of an obvious tell. Some people can do it better than others.
So is he painting back in?
I think no. I think he's just avoiding the white, which is a true pro. I don't have the patience to do that.
Really?
Yeah, man.
On the mask?
Yeah. And then down here, what he's doing is he's using a non-absorbent paper for the most part, and he's wetting it and then lapping it up, which leaves a little trace of the original pigment.
Like rubbing it out, like burning it off.
Like kind of getting rid of it by scrubbing it or just basically lifting it out. That's kind of what the technique is. But man,
it's just incredible how bright the light is on these.
Yeah.
And knowing that's
so good.
He hasn't touched the paper with any paint on those.
It's so good. I mean, like on something like this, maybe you see that little dark edge right there. You might have a little bit of masking fluid. I don't know, but he's better than me. I mean, and I can appreciate it. So like, if you're going to say, hey, no, I want to do studies and I want to be a technical person, and I don't want to get into storytelling, you need to transform your art because that becomes the story. It becomes about your application of paint, it becomes about how you interpret these spaces and interpret the light, interpret the color. And it's hard to do. And everybody thinks, oh, I'll just paint the building. I'll paint this nice tree.
Yeah.
And the tree's already interesting because it's a cool tree. It's not a cool tree. Nobody cares about that tree. I mean, it might be an interesting shape or whatever, but you have to see differently. And this guy's a great example of seeing differently and transforming spaces and shapes and into art. And
Man,
so I just
more of
wanted
the
to
cellos.
highlight that.
Dang.
So good.
So
good.
you know you're a good artist if you can watercolor cellos and bicycles.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I actually just sent him a message saying, "Hey, man, let's trade some artwork, and we'll see if he does. I'll be so happy because I'd love to put that on my wall."
Is it? I remember doing that early on at a Comic-Con. Be like, "Hey, do you want to trade my book here for your book?" And people were just like, "I'm here to make money. I don't want your
leave me
crappy
alone."
book."
We'll see. I think if
We'll
I was just
see.
starting out, I'd feel a little more uncomfortable with that. But
No, I think you definitely have something tradable for sure.
we'll see.
All right.
He's better than me. I love seeing people that are better than me. I love it. It inspires me.
How does he only have 33,000 followers?
I think he's in France, and I just don't think people know about him. When maybe he'll get a big bump after this podcast. I don't know.
Do you
All right,
guys want to do one more
Foley.
question?
Yeah.
Call it good? Okay.
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. So JoshDrawsComics.com says, I have a middle grade graphic novel coming out in summer of 2025. I'm trying to build a following and awareness now rather than a couple of months before the book comes out. All the experts say a newsletter is the way to go because you own your audience, unlike on social media. Have you found they matter? Newsletters. Do newsletters matter? How do you build that list? I've never had much success with social media. My newsletter is aimed at kids comics creators and fans of kids comics. So you can see an example in my blog link below. I'm gonna share that while we talk about this. But we were actually talking a little bit about this before we hit record today. How do you grow an audience? And we'll
I have
have
an
some
idea
thoughts
for
on that.
Yeah. Well, the newsletters really is a good thing if you can add to it every now and then and build. Do you know what's interesting? And this is going to be a sad statistic, but I was talking to the marketing guy that actually works for us at SVS and also that is working with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that if, let's say you have 1,000 people on your mailing list that opted in, well, what would you guess would be the percentage of them that will buy? Let's say you said, hey, I've got these apples, they're crisp, delicious, and so they signed up and they're like, yes, I want to know more about your apples. And all right, and then maybe they even bought an apple from you before, but then they're on your list, they opted in. You have 1,000 people now, and you create a crisp apple version 2, and you say, hey, the version 2 is now ready. What percentage of those 1,000 will buy? What would you guess?
My guess
5%.
5%.
So yeah, he says that that anywhere from 5 to 15% is kind of normal.
Yeah,
and 20
about right.
is absolutely out of the park. Which is
yeah.
really depressing because that's such a small number of people that you got to that opted in, and a lot of them won't see your email. Most of them won't. They just won't. And then a lot of them are
50% open rate on an email list is
amazing.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
Smaller lists get higher yields for that percentage. Just so you know too, that if you got 100 followers or 100 emails, your list, maybe it goes up to 25%, or my email list is very small, 2,000 people, but I do get a 50% open rate.
Yeah.
Of course, I only send it once a year. That helps as well.
So
they're like, oh my God, he sent something.
His name is Ben.
Yapping on about now. Let's see.
Well,
can I give one more stat statistic? This is just a separate one, but
yeah.
it goes along with the same thing. So I signed on with a partner for my tarot deck. She is a well-known tarot deck person, and she has over 1 million followers on Instagram. So that's why I partnered with her. She's super sweet and nice and very knowledgeable. That's the other reason I partnered with her, because she knows what she's doing. But I thought that her audience would translate to sales as well. And so I was thinking even 1% would be, what is that, 10,000 orders or something like that. It ended up being like 0.001% of her audience actually bought. So even so, she has a giant audience. It goes down to such a minuscule percent. I was just kind of shocked at that.
Yeah, it's tough. So Ben's suggestion is not only doing a newsletter, but also starting a Facebook group. And there are ways to do it. And there are better ways to do it. But what his thing is if you have, we'll go back to the Apple thing. If you've got this special version of apples and you say, you start a Facebook group and you say, this is a Facebook group for people who like apples that are crisp and super sweet and somewhat tart, or whatever, but it's a specialty thing. In this case for Josh, it'd be a graphic novel that fits in this genre that doesn't have this or does have this. And are you tired of, your pitch in your Facebook group is, are you tired of graphic novels that do this or that don't do this? Well, this is a group for people who like this blend, this brand of or flavor of graphic novels. So you start a group like that, and your goal is to get those people talking about the genre of the thing that you're making. Okay. So that's the goal, is to provide a safe place where people can come in and share their stuff, their ideas, or their whatever, the things that they like. And these are mostly consumers. So they're consumers of the thing that you're making. You're trying to attract them in there. And that is a group that you basically own because you started the group, right? And his thing is you don't want to just hard sell to those people when your thing is ready. You want to say, hey, you're in there, you're having conversations with those people, and you're chiming in from time to time, not all the time. Those conversations should be taking place without you. There is a bit of moderation that will have to happen because there's always people that go in there and try to ruin it for everybody. But basically, when your thing's ready, you say, hey, the thing I've been telling you guys about, it's finally done. I'm so excited. Here it is. And DM me if you want to know where to get it. So you're not hard selling, right? Or in my case, what I've been experimenting with is I've been going into pickleball groups, borrowing someone else's group because I haven't started a pickleball group, and just saying, hey, our book is ready. It's finally finished. We're so excited about it. Here's some pages of it. Here's me and my wife playing pickleball. This is why we worked on this in the first place. And we're so excited to release it to the world. And at full stop right there. And I get so many people going, okay, but where can I get it? And they type in the comments. And so I just reply, copy paste with the link with the discount code, copy paste link with the discount code. And that's one way of getting sales for your project that way too.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you intentionally leave off the link from in the beginning so you can get that personal interaction.
Well, because almost every group says you can't sell. No promoting, no selling.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So if you put it in there, you'll get banned from the moderator.
Oh, that's so smart. Okay,
but also you want other people to share their projects in your group, but you tell them, here's the rules. Just share your project. Don't put any links. Don't try to hard sell people. But if people ask, then you can reply, kind of a thing. So it doesn't become just a sales pitch Facebook group,
I always go back and forth on, I feel like there's this marketing making sort of balance that you got to do as a creator. But really the thing that's going to sell the most books is making a killer book.
It is.
Like,
because other people will sell it for you.
Right.
Just make the best book that you can absolutely make. Put everything in it that you can. I would grow that email list in a way where, there's the simple hacks where you're just like, hey, you want a free PDF of this thing that I made, and maybe it's a sample of your book, sign up here, give me your email, and I'll send it to you. And by the way, this, you're going to get a weekly email with tips on, just, I don't know. It's a balance between, do you share, do you want to have a fan base, or do you want to help people? Sort of, that's what you have to decide, what the tone of your email list is going to be. Is it going to be a resource, or is it just going to be like an update?
Right.
And the emails lists that are resources are going to do so much better than the ones that are just like, here's an update on what I'm working on, right? But the resource emails email list has to have some sort of resource at the end of it driving it, in order for you to actually be able to harvest, I guess, from that email list. So like, if it's, here's how you make comics, and at the end of it, here's a weekly email list, sign up, and I'm going to teach you how I make comics, and here's how you do it. Everybody who signs up for that list are people who want to make comics, and not necessarily people who read comics, right? So if your book that you come out at the end of it is how to make comics, the Jake Parker way, then that email list is going to be a great email list to sell that book. But if at the end of it is, and here's my comic that I made, less people are going to buy that because they signed up for the email list to learn how to make comics. However, if it is, here's an update on all the stuff that I'm making, and here's how I make my stuff, you're going to get less people signing up for that email, but more of those people are going to buy your book of the comic that you made at the end of it. So it's this balance of what do you want, and how do you do? And that's why I say, yeah, do the email list. Don't kill yourself doing it. Make sure that you're making the good book first, and always have your sights set on making as much of your work as possible versus making as much online content as possible. Because I think the work speaks for itself. You want 1,000 people telling their friends about it instead of you telling 1,000 people about it.
Yep.
All right. Should we wrap it up? Did you have anything to add there, Lee?
Nope. Agree
on that one. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLearn.com and our direct supporters of this podcast. Your hosts are, as always, Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. Unless we have someone else subbing in for one of us,
and then it'll be one of them.
So yeah, you can find us at Will Terry Art, Lee White Illo, and Jake Parker on Instagram. And you can find us on our websites at willterry.com, leewhiteillustration.com, and mrjakeparker.com. Podcast produced by Daniel 2. That's Daniel TU. And you can find his work at daniel2.co. Special thanks to our show notes wrangler, Lily Howell, for all the work she does. If you guys ever look at our show notes, great work is happening there. Very good stuff. Links going out. It's a fine show notes we got going on there. Lastly, special thanks to I sound like Donald Trump there, didn't I? If you ever look at
hey, that's pretty good. That wasn't bad.
I wasn't even trying. I don't know. Anyways, Chief Operations Officer, thank you, Lisa Fott, for keeping the lights on and paying the bills for us. That's it. Now, go draw something.
All right.
We got the best show notes. Very, very fine show notes. Very good show notes.
Best show notes ever made. Oh, that's funny.
We got people making show notes.
I'm traveling yesterday from Denver, and I'm getting from Nashville to Denver flying. And I'm getting these little notices that the weather's going to be bad in Denver. It could be winter storm watches, nothing huge, but just little notes on my phone. And so we're traveling. Flight goes great. It's just one of those easy flights. And I'm like, oh, this has been an easy one. I fell asleep for a little bit, watched a movie, and it was done. Like, I was like, all right, we're landing. It's about a 3-hour flight. And we get the notice over the thing, like we're in a holding pattern over Denver, and they'll let us know when we can land. And so we circle the airport for like 30 to 45 minutes in the plane. I'm like, God, it's starting to get long because you're just anticipating landing, you know, that feeling like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
we're
the
landing, you
worst.
know, let's go. And, I've already put up my laptop and everything. And so then they come on and they're like, the weather's too bad. They're grounding all the planes. There was a tornado near the airport, and they grounded all the planes at Denver. And then everywhere else, they're diverting planes to other airports. And they're like, we may have to divert you to another airport. So then we fly around for another 15, 20 minutes, and they divert us to Colorado Springs, which is about an hour and a half away from Denver.
Right.
And so we land in Colorado Springs, and they're not letting us off the plane. Then we get a notice that there is a mechanical failure on the plane that they have to get looked at. They've grounded 30 planes in Colorado Springs. So there's just planes everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
And our plane has an additional problem apparently on top of that. I'm like, oh my God, we aren't going anywhere. So my first teachable moment of this thing is right when we landed. And I knew that there was other planes. I got on my phone, turned it off of airplane mode, and I booked a car at that airport.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we're not going anywhere. Once I saw all the planes, I was like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, like an hour goes by, we're on the plane. It's just stuck on the runway with all these other planes an hour.
Yeah. Oh, dang.
And then finally the flight crew chimes in and they're like, yeah, we've timed out. We can't do anymore. We're going to deplane. And, and then everybody has to rebook their flight for wherever they're going. So, Denver's a major hub for other places, right? It's the middle of the country. And so a lot of people going to, LA, Seattle, all these different places, right? And so they all have to rebook, but all these planes are probably doing the same thing. So we get off the plane, and thank God, because I was like, if they don't lift me off this plane, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm starting to get claustrophobic and like, I'm gonna start screaming
because I have a problem with that.
Me too. I mean, I'm having to talk myself. I'm with my son, and so I'm trying to look like I'm in control.
But inside,
I'm
exit
like,
door from like the
get out of my
emergency
way.
exit.
It's a nightmare for me.
Oh, it was terrible. So we go to they finally deboard the plane, and I was like, thank God they're letting us off of here. And so we get off, and sure enough, there's already, I'm not kidding, at least 75 people in line for the agent just to do whatever is going to be next, whether they have to book a flight or whatever. And so I'm like, oh man, we're in trouble right now. I was like, I'm not booking another flight. I'm too close to home. I'm just going to drive. So I go to the rental car area, and it is packed. The rental car area is totally packed. I mean, lines 25, 30 people deep, because you can imagine 30 planes, everybody's trying to get home. Anybody who's probably within 6 hours is probably trying to rent a car. Yeah. And so we're in line at my rental car agency is Hertz. And so I get up there, and the two people in front of me, he's at the desk, they turn him away. There's no more cars at the airport. And then he leaves, and it was reserved. And then he left. He's like, apparently there's, the reservation doesn't work. There's a whole Seinfeld bit about that exact thing and rental cars.
Yeah.
So funny. I thought about that right when he turned around. He's like, well, the reservation doesn't work. So the person in front of me gets to the desk, no car. And then I get up there, and I'm like, oh man. I was like, gave my name, and he's like, we have your car ready, sir. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you
did the front of the line pass thing.
Well, what I did there's two steps that my two teachable moments here. One of them sort of, it just depends on how you want to travel and whatever. But what got me through that was, one, booking right when I landed. If there's a catastrophe or whatever, and your plane you get grounded somewhere, book that thing the second you land. That's my first teachable moment. Because there's going to be a line. But the second thing was, I signed up for a new travel credit card, and I'm not trying to push this credit card to anybody, but I travel a lot. And so I read like how to get the points. I actually, that like 15-page document with like 3-point type that they give you. Yeah.
Right.
I read the entire thing to see how I can, where the benefits are. And I use all of them. So this one is called the, what is it? The Venture X. It's from Capital One. It's Venture X. And it has a fairly high yearly rate. But anyway, you get all this stuff with it. And one of the things is they bump you to the presidential status at Hertz, which means you can walk into any airport, you can pick any car, and you can just pay the lowest rate of what their cars are. Like I could pick a Tesla, I could pick a Land Rover, whatever. And so it's just nice. You never have to talk to somebody or whatever. But because I was at that tier, that's how I got the last car at the airport. And so everybody else was just sitting down at the airport, back against the wall, not knowing what to do. We got in our car and drove to Portland. So it just pays to have some of this stuff when you travel. So what I tried to do with travel, if you guys hate travel headaches, is I looked at each step of what happens during a flight, and I tried, like, from going to the airport to parking your car to whatever, getting a car, being in the air, all the stuff. And I tried to make each thing about 10 to 15% easier. And so at the end of the day, it's about a 2-hour savings that I get from walking through lines like TSA PreCheck, all that stuff. And man, oh man, but the credit card hates me because I use even the smallest, dumbest benefit. I will go so far out of my way just to get it.
You're definitely on a list somewhere.
I'm on some list.
Crazy. You guys know that's how Virgin Airlines started, right?
Mm-mm.
So Richard Branson was stuck in the Caribbean and no flights, and the flight got canceled, and everyone's like, what do we do now? And he's like, what about that plane over there? What's going on there? And like, oh, that's for charter only. What about that one? For charter only. What about that one? For charter only. He's like, what is a charter? And they're like, well, you buy the whole plane. And he's like, how much is it to buy the whole plane? And it was like, it was like a couple $1,000s or something, or 5,000 or whatever it was. And he's like, he goes over to a group of people and he's like, come here. If I charter that plane, would you guys each pay, $200 or whatever? And they're like, yeah. Because they were stuck in the Caribbean.
Way.
Right? Yeah. That's how he started Virgin Airlines. Yeah. And they all flew out of there on his dime.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Kind of the same thing with JetBlue as well. It wasn't that he was stuck in a thing, but he was like, it started with chartering and like knowing that there was people that wanted to go from Utah to New York all the time because the guy was based in Utah. And he's like, well, I could like start selling tickets super cheap if I charter these planes, and it turned into an airline.
That's crazy.
Essentially.
So I have one little tidbit to add to the end of my boring travel story. So we get the car and I drive home. We're almost in May. I drive home in a snowstorm. It was a freaking disaster. I mean, we were driving home in heavy, not just a little flurry. I mean, a full-on snowstorm. I couldn't believe it. It's super
no, I'm surprised you didn't say, hey, does anybody need a ride to Denver? $100 and I'll take you there.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have been out of character, but I didn't think about it. Dang it! I would have if I would have gone back. Another side little story is while we're walking to pick up the car at the airport, we're at the Colorado Springs airport. Nothing but cars and airport stuff everywhere. We're going to pick up our car, and like 3 cars down, a huge raccoon comes out and is walking like a Halloween cat with his back like completely arched and tiptoes across the airport parking lot and then disappears. Super.
There's got to be more to the story. Come on, Lee. Keep going.
That's it for that one.
Keep going.
It was a weird thing. Me and my son were just laughing we were like, what is happening? It's absolutely insane. Anyway, and it was a ghost.
So I went on a trip too, and I had 0 problems because I was flying in and out of Arizona. So
now, do you guys use the travel credit cards? Does it come in handy with any of that stuff?
We have a perks card that we get some stuff back on, but
we don't use. I guess the closest thing we use is like the Disney card, and we do use whatever we can get off of that stinking card. Like
nice.
And we
you guys go to Disney a lot. It's just so our listeners know that
Allison uses it to pay all of our medical bills, right? So
you build up those points, yeah.
So it's like, self-employed. We've got crappy insurance. I don't know anybody who's self-employed that has great insurance. Anyway, so we're paying a ton out of pocket. We just use that credit card, and then we'll roll up to Disneyland, and not have to pay a single thing to get in because of all the points we've earned. So, and then once you're in Disneyland, if you got that card, you can get, 30% off of a t-shirt or whatever, something like that. So
nice.
But everything's 30% more expensive. So I don't, might as well just I know I have a friend who's like, kids, we're getting Disney t-shirts at Target and we're gonna wear them into the park. Because the Target ones are like $10 or whatever.